Well, let's go ahead and get started. It's about 5 minutes after the hour. Ahmed, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Nobody gets it right. So everything works. Don't worry about it.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm originally from South Africa. I came in 1985. So I'll give you a little background. I don't know if you're familiar with the political situation in South Africa during that time and the laws that were in place. So a year afterwards, I was born in 1948, the Nationalist Party came into power. And one of the laws they enacted was called the Immorality Act, which meant people of color could not get married. So I came in 85. I was here previously in the 70s for a short term in San Francisco at the Art Institute. Then came here in 82. I met my wife in a country called Swaziland. And she was from the US. She was a Peace Corps volunteer. So came back, got married at 82. Went back to Swaziland, but I was a South African citizen, so I couldn't really go with her. We couldn't live in South Africa because of the laws that were between people of color married. You couldn't intermarry between white and black. So I ended up here in 85, got into business in 86. So I don't know how many of you remember the National Association prior to the CRPS and the global we have now. They had what they call the international section of NAR. So I was one of the charter members in 1991, 30 years ago. And so, it's been a wonderful journey, great journey. I live in the suburbs of Chicagoland with my dear friend Marsha. We're both members of the Main Street Organization of Realtors, which is the largest real estate organization in Illinois. Marsha, how many members? 18,000 are you?
We are over 18,000 members. I should know that. I'm a director, but
yeah, she's one of the
suffice it to say over 18,000 now, 18 and change.
Right, absolutely. So, we were just talking the other day about various things happening. It took 83 years for a person of color to become a president of that association. And it was Dale Taylor, first African-American. And then I followed 3 years later. So, a path was made. But so anyway, still active with that organization. But I also am a secondary member of the Northern Illinois Commercial Association of Realtors, which is an overlay commercial board. And I chair the Commercial Global Business Network. So we have, monthly meetings and monthly webinars, kind of with a twist more to our commercial practitioners. And so I got into the chair position this year. So basically what we've done is also draw in our international partners.
That's fascinating. And thank you for everything that you've done. So we have some topics that we would love to cover and just hoping that you have some information you can share with us.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about immigration and visas? Is it possible for a U.S. citizen what is the process of somebody wanting to get a visa and go and visit or go and become a resident?
Right. So U.S. citizens don't need visas to go to South Africa. It's one of the countries that, basically have your passport and you can go there. Although there are restrictions on the amount of time you could spend there. So you're basically going as a tourist. There is no restriction on foreign investments in South Africa. Yeah. So anyone can buy. But, so there are local laws that are put into place, basically that applies to everyone. Yeah, so there's no restriction. And for our US dollar, it's a great place to buy. Let's just give you an example. So this happened just when the COVID restrictions went into place last March. The currencies changed so fast. I mean, it's kind of stabilized again, but still you can buy a lot for your US dollar, number one. Number two, you can buy some of the most beautiful properties right on, on the coast of the Cape. Or if you want to buy a one of those game lodges, that has been a very popular investment in Americans and Germans in particular. So in mid-90s, was just after South Africa became independent, they did what they call, so the telecommunications was a government entity. They sold 30% of the stake to a Malaysian telecommunication company. That company then brought in Southwest Bell to come and do the, basically, run the whole show on their behalf. So there were about 50 American families that went through this training process, a cross-cultural training. So one of my friends we go back over 50 years, who was in the Peace Corps, Jackson Wolf, he's a master trainer. And so they did this training to these families. So, maybe the dad or the mom was a key person in one of the personnel, but the whole families went. And he told me many years later, some of them stayed behind because they found great investments to buy, particularly with the game reserves. So immigration is pretty easy. You got money, you can go there, you can buy. Financing is the difficulty. If you're not a South African citizen, you basically need to come with your money. And so most Americans do come with a cash buys. I flew in 3 years ago from Frankfurt to Cape Town. That whole flight was only Germans. And I started talking to some of the people around me. They own property in that area of the Cape Province. So, there was a lot of these investments, foreign investors were already there in the first place.
Since you have to come all cash, say that somebody wanted to buy, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on maybe a quarter of an acre, say maybe in the coast of the Cape. Do you have an idea of what a price might be?
For $100,000, you're going to buy a home there for close to, 1.5 million rands. So it puts in a, not in that luxury market, but it goes a long way. Easiest way in South Africa, because they don't have a multiple listing service. So you base some of the companies do have access to it, but it's limited. Also, the two organizations we have partnerships with are RSAR, Institute of Estate Agents of South Africa, which represents its members. And the other one is RSAR, which is represents the owners. So, and you don't have to be a member of this organization to be in the practice. You need to have a license, which is governed through a government agency. So, but there is no incentive other than getting benefits coming for training, basically. So I'll give you an idea with RSAR, their biggest competitors through this COVID period have been other affiliated agencies and attorneys who've basically been offering free online training on various facets of the real estate business, whereby it cuts off with organizations as RSAR to maintain its membership.
And what was the name of those two associations?
Okay, so the one is RSAR, IEASA, Institute of Estate Agents of South Africa.
Okay.
And they are basically the main organization that we've had a relationship going way back.
And that's the relationship with NAR.
Yes.
Okay.
And it goes many decades back.
Okay.
RSAR, which is owners who own the real estate organizations, real estate companies.
Okay.
It'll come to me, sorry. It'll come to me.
It seems like it's an association for the real estate brokers.
Brokers, exactly. You know, one of the questions was the laws, do they differ from different states? Well, and the system in South Africa is basically, it's a provincial system, and they all fall under so there's no separate laws in any of the equivalent of our states. It all falls under the federal government. So all the laws are the same. So if somebody wants to go into the business in South Africa, like here, you will make an offer to purchase. You most times are represented by a real estate broker, real estate agent. And it is, it has its contingencies, whether financing, very similar to ours. The thing there are no such, you could be, the one agent can be representing you on both sides. The bank will appoint what they call a bond registration attorney to make sure that financing is going to this particular property and that this is the property the bond is going to be registered against the property you purchase. And then that has to be what we call registered with the deeds office. Now, there's no title insurance as we have it here.
And so does the buyer pay for their own real estate agent, or do they have kind of the listing agent takes on the listing and shares part of the commission with the buyer?
Right.
It's the same, like it is similar as to what it is here in the States.
Similar to what we have here, but there is because there's no MLS. I mean, there's in certain areas only limited. So you've got to make that agreement. So with commercial brokers here in the US, okay, that are not part of, that are not realtor members.
Right.
You want to make sure up front you get a letter of promise of compensation. So, which is the same thing there. But wherever somebody's prepared to compensate, they will get the letter if it's not part of the MLS.
Okay. So I know this is something that probably many realtors are wondering. Say a realtor here in the US wanted to go to South Africa and purchase property. They used another real estate agent. They wanted to ask that real estate agent if they could use part of whatever that real estate agent earns as commission towards their closing cost, as people do here in the US, kind of like a referral, a real estate agent to a real estate agent. Would that appear to be uncommon, or would that not be surprising to the other real estate agent?
Well, I'm sure it's not surprising. I mean, it's just part of the negotiation. I'm sure it happens.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that there were no, somebody can come in to South Africa, purchase property, and other countries. Sometimes they have restrictions that a buyer can purchase the improvements, but they can't purchase the land, or sometimes they can't purchase any size of land over an acre, or they can't purchase coastal properties. Are you aware of?
No, as I know, I don't think any of those restrictions are there in place.
Okay. Can you share with us a little bit about the cultural differences over in South Africa?
Okay, so, it depends in the province you are living in. So just give you an example. In KwaZulu-Natal, the main city of Durban, the main largest community, the largest group would be the Zulus. Okay. So similarly, each province you go to will have a different community, but then there is also Durban used to be known as the biggest Indian city outside of India because its culture is so dominant. So if you don't eat curry, I mean, that's a place you're going to learn to eat curry because it's part of everybody's cuisine. It's into every different community, and everybody eats it. It's like the UK. So you go to the Cape Province, the main larger influence from the European side would be of the Dutch, but the early Dutch. And then you have what they call the Cape Coloureds. The Cape Coloureds. So in South Africa is divided, during the apartheid years, they had whites, they had blacks, they had Indians, and they had coloureds. And coloureds were people who evolved out of a mix, people of mixed race. But then also you had a unique group of people that were referred to in the Cape as the Cape Malays. And they were really not Malays. They came with the Dutch, as slaves from Indonesia. In 1652, when the Dutch arrived to Cape Town, they brought along with them their servants and made up largely of Indonesian servants. And they had their own culture, very unique to that area, to that province, very colorful. Johannesburg is a little different. We have it's like a little New York. It's like, a city of many different influences. You'd be surprised the American influence on South Africa, even when I was growing up. It was the dominant appeal, and this was before TV.
Wow.
So every new movie came out was there. Music. I mean, you talk about South Africa had some of the coolest jazz places, and that was strong influence because of the connection to the U.S. Music scene. Cape Town is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's absolutely beautiful, tranquil, great. It's got, right on the coast. I don't know, Bangor, maybe you'd be into Cape Town, I'm not sure. But it is a city that I would go back to if I had to go and live in South Africa. That's where I would go and live.
Go back, Joe.
I'll miss the snow, but
Well, I only have a couple more questions, really easy ones. Have you ever heard of any associations doing trade missions down to South Africa?
Yes, they encourage. And so that's one of the things I have in mind, to work on a trade mission, to go to Nigeria, Ghana, and then to South Africa. And so we'll definitely let everybody know. You got to be a part of the trip. It's going to be fun.
That sounds like it'd be great. So if we had some realtors or guests here that just wanted to look at properties down in South Africa, do you have any idea of websites that they can go to look at real estate?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, the one is, these are property portals, property24.com, and then the other one is privateproperty.co.za.
I guess it's not about South Africa, but you have been so involved with NAR for so long on helping with international communications with other countries. And well, for one, I just want to say thank you. The more information that we have, the better. And I think it just makes it so much easier for everybody to communicate. And so, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done all these years and for joining us today. Alina, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm here, so I am very honored to be invited to your program and then talk about Africa. I am sorry for being a little bit delayed. I think I mixed up in my my hours. I was on a mountain zone and now I'm back on Pacific Standard Time. So my apologies. But I am here, and I'm happy to have Ahmed talking about South Africa as well.
We would love to know more about the culture in Nigeria. That would be lovely.
Well, I think that for something like that will be probably the best to invite our partners to talk about that. Of course, there are cultural differences. Of course, you know, there are cultural differences between all the countries, especially when you come from United States. I think that in my experience, in my traveling experience and my international experience, I think that in Nigeria, like in a lot of other African countries and a lot of other Middle Eastern countries or European countries, and even Asian countries, it's very important. The personal connection is extraordinarily important. But I think the in-person relationship, the person-to-person relationship is very important. Business is personal. And I think he will agree with that, with what I said. Regarding the difference is that there is not really an MLS for the time being right now, and they are working on doing things more streaming things to just to make sure that they are more cohesive, and I know they're hard at work with that and have something like an MLS, but there is not something like that. I think Ahmed will agree with me that personal connections are important. Ahmed, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry about that. So as I was saying, there are three major cultural groups, and in the midst of, we have about 100 different minor ethnic groups in the country. And basically, those are the cultural divide lines that might differ within the country when you come in. And they differ on sub-ethnic language groups. So like I said, national language is English, but then these different groups have their own communal language. So that basically is, I think, what the cultural divide lines will be, separating us, apart from being African, from what you experience in the US. But I do understand in the US, we also have different groups as well.
So it sounds like it's wonderfully diversified, very similar to the US.
Exactly, yes.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you.
And we are all one color here.
Do any of our guests have any questions for our speakers?
I have several questions, but one for Ahmed. So I was wondering, is there any kind of fair housing document in, or whatever you want to call it, in South Africa?
Sorry, fair housing, did you say?
Some kind of a fair housing.
Yeah. No, well, so, you know, with the independence after the dismantling of apartheid, basically everyone, those laws were what they called restricted your movement and where you lived. So particularly with the Indian communities, what they call the Group Areas Act. So it basically dictated where you could live, where you could do business, where your movements were. And similarly, there were other laws in place. So these were dismantled. So in other words, none of those laws exist. So, you know, I'm sure part of the Constitution does talk about, not necessarily within the, but it talks about everyone being treated equally. You know, I've got to do some research on that.
Right. Did they ever exist, or were they just sort of paperless nonsense, if they did?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Did the laws ever exist in any shape or form? And again, I'm thinking about all the problems we have here in the US with racial discrimination. But I mean, South Africa is the primo example.
Right, but then you had a complete flip in South Africa. You know, you had a minority white government, which was now replaced by a government with predominantly black, but it was a multiracial government.
Huh.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a complete flip. In the US, the folks that are still in play are the same people. I mean, so that the difference is remarkable in South Africa because you had a complete change of government. You had a complete change in the laws that had every facet of your life was dictated by the color of your skin. I mean, I spent half of my life there, but part of it, but in between, I lived in a country that was called Swaziland. It's now known as Eswatini. It used to be what they know. It was not a British colony, but it was a British protectorate. But the hypocrisy with any of the colonial countries that you had an experience with, laws were not in place, but those practices were. So I remember not being able to get a room at the inn in Swaziland during the British time because it was always full. So with the Dutch in South Africa with the apartheid, they were quite clear on what they meant because they didn't want to, it was part of legislating into law. So you, on the one side, yeah, you knew where you stood, and on the other side, it was hypocrisy at play. So I've had my experience with the colonials and the South African apartheid regime on both ends. But interesting question now is something that we can, take some other time and talk about it over a long day.
Indeed, and thank you so much. This has been like a history lesson for me, but I know it's it's so great just to be on NAR and all this stuff. So it's fascinating.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to agree with Dale. This has been a little bit like a history lesson. And for that exact reason was why I love the CIPS classes, listening to how each country came along, how they culturally changed, and just to learn about how people think, how they love, their relationships, how they purchase real estate. All of that is so fascinating, and to learn how that all happened. Okay, we have a couple more questions. So let's see, the whole process, let me go up a little bit further. So from Marcia, where are the majority of foreign buyers coming from in Nigeria?
Most of the buyers we have now are majority from diaspora Nigerian who are based in different parts of the world, US, Europe, and Asia. So they effectively spend most of the money buying up most of the potential investment properties, and also buying a second, I won't call it a second home, maybe the first home that has become second back home here. So they are primarily the first buyers. Then we have in the last 20 years seen an influx on the commercial side. The South African businesses who have put in a lot of money in Nigeria, buying up real estate for commercial purposes, the retail malls and the commercial office building. There's quite a lot of, they are 70% in that space now at the moment.
Wow.
So we haven't seen them move to the residential side. We're hoping that that would happen in some time. So that is basically the mix of those who are buying in Nigeria at the moment.
May I ask you something? Since I'm very happy that you are here and I brought you in this, because since our partnership is very new, and I would like everybody to understand that this will be our first year of partnership with Nigeria, and that's something that has been in the works for a while. I wanted to just also mention the fact that, and I had the answers from for the questions that Rena Sparks had from you, and it's that there are no restriction for foreign buyers, as you told me, right? And because you're mentioning that the majority of foreign investors are actually Nigerian nationals who are immigrants or in diaspora and coming back, does it help that they have dual citizenship from wherever they are, European or US, and also Nigerian? Can they keep the Nigerian citizenship And is that the same situation for a complete foreign buyer that does not have any relationship with Nigeria? Are there no restrictions?
Yes, the Nigerians, they can keep their dual citizenship, but it doesn't impact on what they can do. Also, the foreign buyers, you see, we have this thing, the new commerce policy, the ease of doing business, which is open the possibility of a foreigner coming in to buy and invest in Nigeria. So effectively, a foreigner can buy 100% ownership. It wasn't so before. It wasn't that in that manner. You would have to buy in partnership with a Nigerian. Now you can
Do you need
buy
an LLC? Do you need an LLC, or you can do it as a physical person?
as a physical person. As Alina, you can do it by yourself, as yourself.
And Benga, are you open for trade missions? Because this wonderful agents from Reno Sparks might want to visit, might want to come in a trade mission.
Oh, definitely. We're keen, we're ready, and we're very hospitable. You would once they come in, there are things they will see and will not want to go. So yes,
What will
definitely.
be the attractions? Just tell us all what will be the attractions, what we should expect, and what can we visit when we go there?
We have one of the longest coastlines in West Africa. That's for starters. And the beaches are beautiful. So that on its own is an attraction.
Just curious, in case somebody wanted to go now, what are the, if you happen to know this, what are the COVID requirements for entry?
On that, you're required to do a test before departure from your the country, not departure from Nigeria, from your country of departure. And then once you come into Nigeria, you would have to do a 7-day quarantine and do a second test.
Okay.
To confirm that. So those are the two requirements that I'm sure of.
Actually, yes. So I wanted to just touch on one more thing. Benga, you were mentioning in the because I placed the questions with Benga before, and we talk quite often, and we've known each other for a while. We met actually through FIAPSI, and now that I'm so happy that they are joining our NAR family, I wanted to ask him again that the role of an attorney and how easy it is to do a real estate transaction, how long it takes, and how easy it is to record. And do you do online recording, or you need to be in person during COVID? And that's probably what I'm gonna ask, and if Erica has more questions.
So you don't have to be. Pre-COVID, you didn't really need to be there to conclude. Once you have your documents in place and documents have been searched and everything pans out, payment, you get the contract. And once you get the contract and it's signed up, payments are received. Now we don't have escrow as you have over there. What happens simply is that once offer is accepted and you go to contract, then you make your payment straight to the vendor. Now, because of that, you don't really have to be physical once all documentations have been perfected. So you probably need an attorney or a broker. So your broker can actually represent you in that process. And you don't need to do it. In some cases, you have to notarize your documents to confirm that you're a real person and that's the person in the document. But essentially, that could happen. So that was pre-COVID. So in the same situation, we're in COVID now. Effectively, you don't have to be face-to-face. Now, things can be done much easily. So once all we need, proof of funds, you have the funds. Title checks out. We don't have title insurance here again. So we've gone to do a search. Everything is been checked, no encumbrances, no gazettes. Government is not revoking it from anyone. And once those things pan out, then effectively you move to contract and then exchange documents and transfers and monies are paid. So it can take, if everything works out, 2 days.
Wow.
And then it as at the extreme case is that it can take 6 months
Oh, wow.
when you're waiting for documents. But the good thing is that it really, if you have everything in place, it can take 2 days.
Thank you. I wanted to say that, would you say that this is more of a British system that you had until now and you still are looking to in Nigeria? It's similar, it's something that you adopted in real estate? Because I know that in England, it takes a longer time to complete the transaction as well.
No, okay, put it this way, it's a British system, really, the foundation of our transactions. However, because you see, a lot of people want to get hands on their possessions very quickly. So what happens, the culture, let's go back to that culture. The culture means that I accept what you're giving to me in good faith. And once I get money from you, I believe everything you've done is true. So the culture allows me to exchange with you quickly. So it's not the process, it's the culture that comes into place. But then the same culture allows us to wait and not say, look, let's check, make sure that we are being given the right documents. We are buying the right property. That's why it might take longer than it goes to about 6 months, making sure that things are checked out. And one of the reasons that it takes longer is when you're dealing with what we call the estate. The estate is where someone is deceased and has passed on the asset to the family, and they haven't completed their documents. And you have to make sure that everything is right with the government, and they have transferred that interest from the deceased party to the estate in the appropriate way. So that's where you might have a longer period. But if both parties are both alive, in most cases, it takes a short time, not longer than a month.
What is your opinion of the most sought after real estate for foreign people purchasing in Nigeria?
Currently, well, it's not yet a sector. The beach homes, the beach houses are that's where the biggest interests are at the moment. And so, of course, there's quite a lot of interest now to standardize these homes into more modern buildings. We used to have in the past just how would I put it? It wasn't very developed, but now it's getting so developed, and it's now becoming an investment type market, the beachfront homes.
Awesome. Okay. And then this was a question by Marcia, and I think she had to run because we ran a little bit over. But it's a great question. Who does the due diligence with regards to the title search?
So that is usually done by, you can engage the lawyer,
Okay.
your attorney, or in some cases, the broker does it in some cases with the guy. You know, the land registry is government owned. So you just make an application to secure a status report on this particular property, and they give it to you.
Oh.
So you find out whether it's encumbered, who bought it, who was the last, when was the last transaction. So they print out these reports for you. So anyone can actually make those applications to what we call the land registry. So every state has a land registry of where you have this all the assets registered.
Okay.
So it could be to answer the question, is the attorney or your broker. Either of the two can do it.
We are going to go ahead and wrap up. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Ahmed, Alina, and is it Binga?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
We have, I invited Iris, who is the global chair, it's your similar, he has a similar position as you, Erica, for Long Island Association. So I invited him.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. I'm the global chair for Long Island Board of Realtors, and it was very nice of Alina, Abey to invite me to this event. Really, really interesting. We are actually, our group, we are close to 28,000 strong, which also includes recently joining the Hudson Gateway. And that being said, I was the global chair for New York State about 2 years ago, and currently the chair for global. And we are trying to promote as much as we can different countries. And very soon, I think so, we are going to bring in Nigeria and South Africa to expose to the people in India. I mean, sorry, I'm originally from India, so it just popped up. For people in New York to show what it is outside of New York to work with other countries and their rules and regulations and cultural differences, and it's really, really, really exciting. We have the series called Virtual Global Tours with different countries. In fact, we are doing one tomorrow with Costa Rica. And then we are followed by Philippines and other countries. We have the agenda set up for the whole year. And it'll be really interesting to have Benga and other folks, to be on our the virtual system, so that people can then know more about Africa, because people know of it on the map, but what actually exists there and what happens, it's a different story altogether, And me being from India, I do know a lot about Africa and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because I'm originally Romanian, and I'm here in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and now I got to be the coordinator for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I am truly passionate about it. And honestly, I cannot wait myself to visit and have a trade mission to Nigeria and South Africa and Ghana. Those are the countries we have in Africa for right now as partners. And since Iris mentioned India, probably it's fair and good to mention that there is a lot of commercial investment in Nigeria from China and India, and has been for a long time. And I think that commercial real estate in Nigeria, in infrastructure and a lot of other things, will be probably something interesting to talk about it in the future.
Alina, do you know Jenny Timman, our previous
Of
Romanian
course,
ambassador?
she was before she was. That's the reason actually I talked to her, and Jenny was before me the president liaison to Romania, and she was ready to retire from that and asked me if I want to do it, and I applied for it. I was for a few years the global ambassador for it, then Romania, Georgia, and Moldova, and here I am today. The rest of history.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a small world. It really is.
Very small world. Yep.
No, definitely. Thank you very much, Erica.
This was lovely. You're
Sheila.
such a wonderful group of global-minded peers.
Yes.
So if I may say something at this point.
Yes,
With
please.
me, I always say I was born in Africa. I was born in Tanzania. I was brought up in Southeast Asia because I was brought up in Pakistan, but my religion is such that we have roots in India. So I am South Asian, brought up in South Asia, and now I'm in America. So I think there's a very global perspective to almost all of the people who are here right now.
Well, I want to just
Thank you.
everybody for being here today. Thank you for everybody who spoke. Even though everybody is so far away, it feels so great to have you so close and to have you join us and to learn so much more about Nigeria and South Africa and the history. It's been a special treat for me and hopefully for all of our viewers here today. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and we'll hopefully you'll join us in a couple months when we do another Global Power Hour.